Welcome back to the Remedial Film Class Podcast. I'm your host, Dan.
And I'm Travis.
And I'm George.
Hey, George, remember years ago when we talked about how Michael Myers was most effective when everything was a mystery and we really had no idea what was going on behind the scenes there?
Yeah.
How did you like the movie tonight, man? We watched Halloween 6, the unrated producer's cut.
This might have been the worst movie I've ever seen in my life.
It was worse than 5?
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
Man, they even put a Thorn logo in the Halloween word. It's the A. So you know that Thorn is like part of the mythos now.
At least there was plenty of expose for, like last week where like Megs was lost. She was just lost. This at least over-explained everything a little bit more.
Yeah.
It over a lot of things, all the
Yes,
things.
Well, there's many reasons for that, so I'm sure we'll get into them.
Yikes, man. So, yeah, the movie starts out, we've recast the role of Jamie. It's no longer Danielle Harris. Jamie, the character's got to be like barely 18 years old and is in labor with what we find out is Michael Myers' uncle baby. Like, not getting off to a great start here, fellas.
Yeah.
Was that revealed in the beginning, or was that like an
No,
ending?
they saved that little gem for the end.
Yeah.
It's his baby.
Actually, timeline-wise, I believe Jamie should have been about 16.
I mean, it's close,
Okay.
right? If she's like 11 and 88, then by 95, she's pushing 18, but barely. It's like you knew that they did this math at some point. And if you have to do this math in your movie, you've already gone too far. Maybe rethink the whole idea.
Yeah, that was my number one issue of many, because I felt like the character of Kara, who's a Strode, I think it would have been more solid if that was a grown-up Jamie and the kid Dylan, or what's his name? Not Darren. What was the kid's name?
Which kid?
The kid that kept hearing voices. Oh,
Danny.
Danny.
Because he's named after The Shining. So Danny, if Danny was actually Jamie's child and she didn't know that it was a conception from the cult, that way the age you would have felt more towards that character. You would have cared more because it was your Jamie.
I get the impression, Travis, that you've given more thought to the plot of this movie than anyone involved in its development.
I have a whole subplot in my head that was way better than this movie.
It was a great movie.
I don't know.
Wonderful movie.
Do you want me to get into that already, or you want me to wait?
I mean, let's hear what George has to say. George, you said it's like the worst movie you've ever seen. Expand on that. Why? What's wrong with this movie?
I took notes. You want to do the old school
We haven't done
thing?
notes on a movie since the first fall break. Go on.
Okay. First note. Sick hospital.
Is that a pun?
No.
Yeah, any hospital with like a secret castle crypt labor and delivery ward is all right with me.
Yeah.
That's where my kids were born.
Yeah, totally good. Totally cool.
I didn't find it weird at all.
What rune did you draw on your baby when it was born?
Well, my kids were born in the across the street from the actual hospital. So if anything did happen, they could go down in the elevators, go underneath the street, and then go over to the hospital. Which
wow. So you really did deliver your baby in this crypt. Okay, go on, George.
Yes.
This crypt at the University of Pennsylvania.
It was Pennsylvania Hospital.
You know.
Yeah.
Or Pennsylvania Hospital. Wow. She gave birth to a 6-month-old boy.
Yes. Yeah. The baby's age. Yeah. clearly a 6-month-old.
And clean.
Like that baby rolled over and crawled away from the shot a couple of times.
Yeah. Drove away once.
Okay.
That kid changed ages like 4 times.
Yeah. So, what? God, I can't remember any of these names. The baby's Danny. The mother is Lindsay.
No.
Who's the mother?
The mother is Jamie.
The mother's Jamie.
And the kid was unnamed until Ant-Man named him.
And Lindsay is not
Lindsay's
very,
not in this.
very far back.
Right.
Okay, so give me the names one more time. Danny,
Jamie.
And Jamie.
Jamie's
and
the one who gave birth.
Kara
Okay,
is the
so-
mother of Danny. So
Danny's a different bloodline.
Yeah.
Danny's a different bloodline.
Yes, he's a true Strode.
Which we should also discuss at some point.
Okay, so Jamie is escaping with
Herbie.
Steven, who hasn't been named yet.
Right.
And they are escaping, and the nurse that helps them escape is now running from Michael Myers.
Yes.
Why the fuck is there a spike sticking out of the wall?
you mean the convenient people spike?
Well, Jason carried that spike around in part 7. This one was in the wall.
It was,
So it was,
the wall is like,
it's like, oh, you need a railroad tie spike?
the wall is poured concrete. And they were like, you know what? Let's put a spike right here. We
It is
might
a
need it later.
It's an underground cult. So, I mean, it could have been a thorn in the wall.
Oh, that's true. It's a thorn.
Could have been a logo. A 3-dimensional logo.
Yeah,
3D printed.
Did you notice how Michael's posture when he puts the lady on the people spike? He looks
it's
like
awful.
a 50-year-old man. Like he doesn't.
Yes.
I mean, it's probably good for the character development if they were to stick with it.
Mhm.
But he looks like old, tired, and kind of over it. It's kind of funny.
This was a decent Michael Myers, actually.
Lots of standing around. Lots of action figure Michael.
Mm-hmm.
If you get a chance to watch the theatrical,
Mm-hmm.
the Myers scenes are better. You get more Myers in the theatrical, and he's like a freaking freight train killing machine. Like they took a lot of that out. In this version.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought you'd get more.
Mm-mm. You get more of the background.
More
Thorn story.
runes. You get more runes.
More runes. Yes.
Mm. Very good. Dr. Loomis got plastic surgery.
Yes.
Nice.
Because they didn't feel like putting makeup on him.
Yes.
Also, this movie is a mess.
Yes.
It's supposed to be, I think.
It is takes down yard sign with an axe. Why?
Just to be
Because
sure.
the dude's unhinged. That dude is. They wanted to establish that he's not very stable.
When they're at the breakfast table,
Yeah.
and he's talking about how kids have no respect.
Oh, you mean Biff?
He gets
Biff, yeah.
he gets no. I'm thinking he gets no respect.
Rodney.
No respect at all.
I'll tell you. These kids are out here.
I get no respect.
I'll tell you.
Okay, so Jamie eventually at some point gets knifed.
Yes.
Okay? And I thought
Among other things.
I thought she was dead,
No.
and I thought she was acting dead when Loomis arrives.
Right.
And the camera is on her and her eyes are moving
Rolling, yeah.
underneath her eyelids.
She had REM going.
And I was like, I'm thinking this, I was like, do dead people's eyes move? What is going on here?
Beth's eyes were moving too when she was dead. The chick in the bedroom.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
And then
Poor
my next
direction.
note is, okay, Jamie isn't dead. Weird.
She died in the theatrical version.
Okay.
That same scene was much more gruesome and much more definite.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I would think, I mean, he's been chasing this chick for...
Like 30 years.
He doesn't
Yeah,
generally
yeah.
let people off easily. Yeah.
No, exactly.
Well, I
And so
love-
I'm like,
If you watch a scene, it's just he kind of goes up to her with his hands to her face. You know how they kind of touched on that whole thing, how they have a connection?
mm-hmm.
He goes to touch her face, and you think it's going to be one of those moments, and he just pushes her deeper onto the plow. Like,
Ooh,
yeah, it's pretty definite.
nice.
It's good stuff. The movie sucks.
Yeah, I was gonna
but
say I don't know if that's good stuff, but it's certainly definitely.
the kills were good in the theatrical. Just the movie was a mess because they had to cut half of it out because they had to do all these reshoots.
Okay, and
Donald Pleasance died right before the reshoots.
is that true?
Yes. Why do you think I have a whole page of notes here? No, the reshoots is, if you watch the theatrical, the ending. You know the part where he screams at the end of the movie we watched?
Yes.
He sees the tattoo appear and he's like,
Yeah.
does that, no. his Darth Vader moment.
Yes.
That is done off screen while there's Michael's mask is laying in the parking lot. But Loomis went inside. Like the scenes they reshot was the whole third act.
Yeah.
So
I believe it.
Tommy has a huge like lead pipe fight with Michael Myers. he chases them through the hospital. It's actually really well done. It's visually nice. It still sucks, but it's better than the story they were trying to tell
Maybe
originally.
I should have watched.
No, you
that
should watch them
one.
both. But we didn't want to. We knew you were limited on time. But the ending that they reshot is more of a Tommy Michael battle with Kara and the kid.
Tommy.
Tom,
Tommy.
Paul
yes.
Rudd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
So how early on, George? I wanted to know how early on were you like, oh, that's America's second favorite Kansas Cityan, Paul Rudd.
Who's the first, Dan?
Ted Lasso, I think, has usurped
Oh yeah, that's
Paul
true.
Rudd.
It's pretty early in the movie. I recognized him as an actor I know.
Good enough. For George,
But-
that's a win.
Yeah, I recognize him. I'm like,
I was waiting for wait, that was Paul Rudd?
no. I was like, I was like, damn, he looks familiar. Who the hell is he?
Well, he did Clueless the same year.
And
This was first, though.
I wouldn't know his name unless you said it.
Right.
Like, but yeah. What else have I seen him in besides Clueless? Which
Well,
I
he's
haven't seen.
Ant-Man.
Oh yeah, duh, yeah.
40-Year-Old Virgin. Did you see that?
Yes.
He's in
You
that. He did
see,
This Is 40.
This is 40.
I didn't see that.
That we're watching.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd be down for
Yes.
that. That's a good one.
Yes.
And what's the one
That's
where
a-
he's obsessed with Rush? And it's like a buddy comedy with him and he just does a bunch of comedies. He's hilarious and very charming.
Yeah, he's hilarious.
and he's always
Yeah.
kind of
Him
the
and
same
Seth
guy and
Rogen.
everything, but like he's so
Mhm.
likable. I Love You, Man. That's the name of the movie.
I Love You, Man.
Oh
And
yeah.
he was
I
also
Love You,
on
Man.
Friends. He played Phoebe's guy for a while.
Oh, yeah,
but you know
Banana
Friends.
Hammock.
Friends.
Or
Friends.
Crap
Friends.
Bag,
Yeah.
whichever one he was, I forget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Friends sucks.
Okay.
It's no Community.
Huh.
Okay. This is a note for all the electricians listening. When the scene where mom is doing laundry and she has to like turn the power off and then back on,
Yeah.
like the whole, like the hard
Yeah,
reboot.
the Frankenstein switch down there. Yeah.
Yes. I said that's quite a heavy duty fuse disconnect for a washing machine.
Hence why it bursted a hole in the bottom of it.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
overpowered.
But that's just a note. Oh, another electrical note that I kind of saw was in this house. I want to know where exactly is this house in real life. Is it in Chicago?
Salt Lake City. That's where they filmed it.
Okay.
Does that matter?
No, because I saw things in that house that are what I recognize as Chicago electrical code.
Okay.
So, just
It's just it's good art production, I guess. Set design.
I guess, or maybe
Pasadena walls
maybe
in
they
that
have
joint.
similar things that I'm not as familiar with Salt Lake City as I am
But it
with
looks
Chicago.
like they might have built that house about a week before production, so I don't know.
I don't think so.
That house was pretty rough.
I don't think so. The
But it
conduit
had to be.
the conduit had like legit
Yeah.
box offsets that were bent by an electrician.
No,
for
it had
sure.
to be a legit house, but it had to be dilapidated because it's the old Myers house.
Anyway, that's just weird. Off topic. If there's one electrician listening, he'll agree.
He's
with
giving you
me.
a thumbs up right now.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Because he saw it too. He's like, yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay, so Mom Axe Kill wasn't bad.
Yeah,
No.
yeah, pretty good.
Is that my first?
Well framed.
Is
Well
that my
framed.
first positive note?
Maybe. Yes.
And then immediately after it was this. This is quite possibly the worst movie I've ever seen. I don't know what was happening at that time. That's not how constellations work. Is my next
Where
one.
it shows up like every 3 years and
Yeah,
then 5
yeah.
years and then once a year and then 7 years.
I'm like and I'm like, well, maybe it's just like on Halloween. Like maybe it shifts. I'm like, no, that's not how constellations work.
Oh man, 6-minute abs.
It's just like, no. So George, stop trying to like. No, it's just not. No. Placental fluid.
Yeah,
That's
that's a dead giveaway.
it's like
Someone had a baby.
I want to know how
Not
they
only-
strained it out of all the blood.
Yeah, it was like different kind of blood. It was like, oh, this is placenta.
There's
Juices.
lots of. All right, so I googled that to
Oh,
see if
shit.
it was an actual thing.
Your algorithm's going to be crazy.
And the closest I could get was amniotic fluid,
Yes.
which is something I've heard of before.
Mm.
But I'm pretty sure like that goes with the baby.
They should have
Right?
said like umbilical
I don't know.
something. I don't know.
If only we knew someone who was an expert at this.
If
Because
only.
placenta fluid, most of that you lose when your water breaks, right?
I thought that all of that came out with the baby.
I don't know. It's on the bed.
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
It's on the sacrificial table.
I'm not a doctor, but I don't
But
know.
you play one on TV.
Then we actually get to use the super heavy duty disconnect
Yes.
in the basement.
Full
Thumbs
shadow.
up. Thumbs up.
The payoff.
Okay, so the next kill that I had noted was the through the camera lens kill, I called it.
Okay.
Right? It's after the shower kill. The shower kill was like kind of fine.
Weak.
Fine, I guess. Yeah, weak. And
There was no psycho.
yeah, but the kill of the girlfriend, I don't know her name either.
Beth, I think.
From the view of
Like the rear window type feel of like the camera from across the street.
From,
right?
yeah, the camera from across the street. She's looking through the camera. She can see Michael Myers. She can see, like, she witnesses it from across the street through this camera. That's great.
Yes.
It was great.
Done way better in Scream with the 30-second delay, which was sweet. When Randy's like, Jamie, not behind you, Jamie.
The guy named Jamie in real life.
Jamie.
Being like, hey, Jamie, watch out.
So
He's
meta.
behind you. So good. Man, Scream is so much better than this movie. And what are
Yeah,
they,
right.
like a year apart?
Yeah, that came out in 96.
That is
Wow.
crazy.
Wow.
Well, Kevin Williamson also wrote H2O, I
Yeah.
believe.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Thank goodness
So-
for Scream, because imagine if Halloween 7, I mean, we're getting ahead of ourselves, but imagine if Halloween 7 had been a continuation of this horrible mess.
Well, once we discuss my theories, part 7 might have been pretty good.
Oh, golly.
Ugh,
Copyright Travis from the remedial film class.
they're not touching it.
Okay, so another note, just after the camera lens kill, I don't know what kill it was right after that. I said one positive thing I can say about this movie is that the kills are good.
Mm.
And they are a little better in the theatrical cut. Like, if you don't mind the
Yes.
fact that it makes even less sense when you watch that movie, you do get an increase in kind of gore. But I felt like the Myers is more effective in this one because he's more like the old school, like, statue Myers.
Yes.
But the Myers in the theatrical does not have the huge backstory. Like, they're not turning. You know, at the end of this movie, they just made him like a pawn, and then he was stuck inside of the circle.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't happen in the theatrical. He's Myers. He's a freight train. There's no controlling him.
Okay.
So even though there's a subplot of this cult and a subplot of the baby,
Mm-hmm.
you don't get all the stuff you got at the end of this, where he was basically just in their control
Right.
until the end,
Okay.
like the very end.
Then Danny runs across the street into the Myers house,
Mm-hmm.
and his mother goes after him. What's her name again?
Kira? No,
I think it's Kara.
Kara.
Kara. Kara goes after him, and she finds him, and he's in a room, and he's kind of like looking like he's in a trance a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
right? Kill your mom, Danny, was my note.
Mm-hmm.
And then, oh, boo.
That
And
would've been
then mom drops out of the attic access,
Yes.
and I said, oh, hi, Mom. And again, another one. This is the worst movie I've ever seen. I should take notes as to what's happening when I write stuff like
Right.
that. Okay, so now we're
I'm
in
sure
the
it had to do with the robes they were wearing.
maybe, I don't know.
The Illuminati eye on the center.
So the scene where the evil guy is basically passing the torch to
Loomis.
and he's talking about like his point of view, his perspective, his philosophy, I say, wait, I recognize this rhetoric. It's the League of Shadows. Michael Myers is Batman.
He is Batman.
And he's being controlled by the Undertaker. So
He was born in it.
He was born
he
in
was
it.
born in it.
by God, King,
Adopted.
that baby has a family. Why is the guy the Undertaker in this one? Did you notice that? It's very strange. The Win, the guy
Oh,
in
yeah.
cowboy
yeah.
boots. He's gone from cowboy
He's
boots
the
to
Man in
full
Black.
Undertaker in
Yeah.
one movie.
There's not much different from this and Hot Fuzz. By the way,
Yeah.
there's a lot of Hot Fuzz in this movie.
Yeah, it's true. And
Just that
then
was much better.
I have no notes about like the very, very end of the movie, except for after the movie was done, it said in memory of Donald Pleasance.
And you cried a
And
little
I
bit.
said, well, this movie sucked all the way through.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
And I'm
bad
sure he was
news.
like, no, don't dedicate this to me.
Is the theatrical dedicated to him as well, or only
Yes,
the?
yes.
Okay, because I don't remember if it is or not. And he made another movie right after this movie called Fatal Frames, which
So that must have been already in the can.
yeah,
'Cause he
it must have
died.
been during post production of this.
Yeah.
And he died, I think, during production of Fatal Frames, or right at the tail end of it, to where
Mm.
if we're never gonna watch that for the show because you guys would both quit. It's an Italian giallo, and it's a bad one by giallo
Right.
standards.
Mm.
At the end, he's like, he just pieces out in the middle of the investigation, and it's just like, I have to go investigate an old case, and like they rip off the beam, 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 beam,
Oh, boy.
and then he like exits stage right, and then you find out, oh, he died. So I guess he did enough of his part that he got to read. Maybe it's I don't know. That movie sucks. Don't watch Fatal Frames unless you hate yourself, or you want to watch it with me because I'll probably watch it again soon.
Well, I can make it worse for you. The director did not like Donald Pleasance at all. He said he was boring.
It's because the director is a moron.
The director is an idiot. Well, what's funny is this is the producer's cut.
Mhm.
If you watch the director's cut, he took like 25 minutes of Loomis out.
Hi, this is Dan in Post. Point of clarification. The theatrical cut of Halloween 6, from my understanding, is that it was a Weinstein edit to make it more marketable. So it's not necessarily a director's cut per se, so some of what Travis was saying doesn't really fly, but it does suck more storytelling-wise than this garbage heap. So, splitting hairs. The Weinstein cut is the theatrical cut. The Moustapha Akkad cut is the producer's cut. They're both producers, though, so that's confusing. Okay, back to the show.
So when you watch that movie, you're like, okay, first of all, one of my notes why this sucks was there's no scene where Myers and Loomis are together. Like, they're not on screen together. It's Wynn wearing the Myers mask
Yeah.
when they see him at the end.
That's true.
So there's no Myers Loomis.
Now, we should talk about Kara real quick. I've heard that Weinstein had some disagreements. I wasn't there. I don't know what he said, but you can find those on other sources. But the thing that's funny about the lady that's cast as Kara, she's like a Wish.com Nicole Kidman in a lot of ways. And she does
Yeah.
the scene in front of the mirror where she's like, for
Mhm.
no reason, taking off her clothes.
Very eyes wide shut.
And it's very Eyes Wide Shut, but it's like years before Eyes Wide Shut. That's weird. That's a weird echo. That can't be. And I'm sure Kubrick wasn't watching this shit being like, ooh, if I have
Well,
Nicole Kidman in a movie, I'll put her in front of a mirror. But
Kubrick is referenced a lot. So the at least the creator, I think the director was a Kubrick fan, and the writer was kind of a Kubrick fan because he made references in the writing to The Shining. But the director, I think the hospital room is 237. Danny's the kid. He's hearing voices. Like, there's a lot of references to The Shining.
and then for whatever reason, Divine is on Paul Rudd's file cabinet.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, I guess, sure, rock and roll.
Maybe he's a John Waters fan. I don't
Who
know.
isn't a John Waters fan?
Right. Yeah. So that was number one. Number two would be killing Jamie, which they didn't in this version, but they do kill her. Apparently, Danielle Harris was supposed to be in this movie.
Really?
Yeah, she was in talks. she was too young. She was 17. They would have had to go through all that stuff with the, you can only work a certain amount of hours, whatever. So she went and she went through all these legal things to make sure that she could work, and then they refused her pay. She kind of put it in her pay to pay for her legal fees to do all the stuff that she had to do to make sure she could work.
Yeah.
And they refused to pay her that money. And eventually she just walked away. So she was supposed to be in it, and in the original script she did live to the end, and she was one of the
She probably
final girls.
She probably read the script.
No, she wanted to be in it. And then I think she
wanted to be in it.
She saw the changes.
She did all the legal stuff. She went back. They told her they weren't going to pay for the legal stuff. She read the script and said,
"Peace,
forget it."
Yeah, it's a shame because I think if she would have played instead of Kara, I think if Danielle Harris was in it, and she was with Tommy.
Yeah,
I think it would have worked out pretty good.
Okay, so I had a big problem with her death in this movie.
Okay.
The real death or the
real death.
the
gun, yeah.
Yeah, that it's by a silenced pistol firearm. And not
It should have been like a pillow
a
smother
blade
or something.
of some kind from...
Well, it was the Man in Black. It wasn't Myers.
I know.
So
It's the wrong person. It's
Yeah.
the wrong weapon. It's the wrong everything.
word.
When that happened, I was like, what the fuck are they doing?
It should have been
What
that scene
is
out of
this?
Cuckoo's Nest where the pillow goes over her head and she struggles until she stops moving. That's if they were going to do that. That's what it should have been.
I guess. I don't...
for
I
a
mean-
series that is so far up its own butt with nostalgia and so focused on recreating the same 4 scenes from the first movie in every movie,
Mm.
it was a weird departure.
Yeah.
Very weird.
And not good
But-
weird.
But knowing what you guys are telling me about the theatrical now, like, he says, like, basically, you're no longer needed, right? And
Right.
what did they need her for? Right?
They don't. She had the baby and that's it.
Well, why did they keep her alive until then is the question. And the answer to that question was, I think, it was to lure Loomis
Yeah.
for all the ritual stuff,
That's what they said.
which wasn't in the theatrical.
Was the ritual stuff in there?
I haven't watched theatrical in a couple of years, man.
Yeah, I haven't either.
It all runs together into one like puddle of filth.
Anyways, I already feel like I'm giving the movie too much
No.
thought.
But it's good
that it
because all the
doesn't-
stuff
that
gets
doesn't
fixed
deserve.
later on in other movies where you're going to be like, oh, there they did it right. So it's good to watch bad
Yeah.
to know good. Where these movies, the Thorn Trilogy, I guess they call it, plays on the nostalgia a little bit. They try to recreate shit, but you don't ever care.
You say the Thorn Trilogy. There's another.
4, 5,
Well,
and
this
6.
is the 4, 5, and 6 is the
The
Thorn,
Jamie
and then
trilogy is what I would
the
call
Jamie
it.
trilogy. But they call it the
Oh.
Thorn Trilogy.
Okay, but in 4 there was no Thorn.
But it's the same characters.
It's the same character. Okay.
In 5.
Okay, very good. I understand.
Yes, because now after this, they waited some years, and then they did H2O.
Not very many years though. That's the wild
like
thing.
2
'cause-
years?
Yeah.
Was
It's just the turnaround time to go from like this endless cycle of bullshit to like, the actually pretty darn good for its time in 1998. Like, what, 3 years?
Yeah.
And thanks to Scream, they just like turned the ship around and are just like, oh, good movies. We're doing good movies now. Okay.
Right.
Get the guy that did good movies and just remake Halloween again, but this time with the good movies guy.
And I noticed with H2O, they could have referenced Jamie without confusing people and kept the story going as opposed to writing it off like it didn't happen. She could have just mentioned that she faked her death to get away, which I believe is mentioned.
But the problem with that is now this is what we talked about in Halloween 4. She's now abandoned her child and left her behind to be stalked and murdered by Michael Myers.
Yeah, but they established she's not really thinking with a full Like she's dealing with enough on her own. I don't know. People walk away all the time because they can't cope. It's forgivable. There's plenty of shit in part 8 that is not forgivable with that character. So, or 9. Is it 8? When does she?
How many of these movies are there?
There's about to be 13.
Yeah.
It's going to beat Jason to number 13, but not by much, it sounds like, if the news is to be believed, for next year. So, yikes.
Word.
So we have 7 more movies.
No, you've
Am
only
I
got,
math is
you've
correct?
only got, well,
I know, because I already saw H2O.
you've got 5 more movies. If we watch
5?
them all. Because the 2 zombies and the
5?
3 new ones.
That's if we watch the remakes, yeah. Which we probably should watch 1.
Oh, we are absolutely going to
definitely.
watch 1.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we will not make him watch 2.
No.
I'm not watching. I refuse.
Two
on moral grounds.
Although 2 will make him love this.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Hey, so while we were talking, I checked in with an expert I know on the subject of babies falling out of women.
Oh, good.
And I said, hey, so would a doctor be able to differentiate between placental fluid and blood examining a woman after birth? Like hours
24
after birth.
hours after birth, yeah.
And she wanted more information. So I said, okay, it's a dead lady. You're examining a dead lady, theoretically, and she's had hemorrhage, obviously. Would you be able to present me a vial of placental fluid in a way of like, hey, we just collected this from a body?
Does it separate like oil and vinegar?
And
is the
she's
question.
like, maybe.
Okay.
Really?
Maybe. It's something that you could do. It's not something you actively do clinically, but a forensics person could do so. So that doctor in that hospital probably couldn't, I think is the vibe I'm getting from this answer. But if
Right.
you were to take that body and do like a full autopsy, forensics scientists might be able to separate like, oh, hey, placental fluid. I mean, the thing that's weird
Gotcha.
about that is, though, I mean, from my own personal experience and from that of my friends, I'm pretty sure any decent doctor and or coroner would be able to notice, like, 24 hours after birth, that body has changed significantly, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
you wouldn't need the placental fluid to be able to figure out, like, oh, a baby passed through this body an hour ago. So,
I mean, first of all,
did they collect the fluid when she died, or did
Yes.
they collect the fluid when they got her from the barn?
it was when she was
Uh,
dead, because I think
Okay.
they
it was
only
after the
presented
death.
the fluid after she... No, it had to be after she was dead.
Okay.
Unless she was in a
'Cause she
coma.
was still laying in that bed.
It's possible.
When he pops that vial out, I think she's already been shot in the face.
Okay.
She has been. But when did they collect it?
Good
Right.
question.
We don't know.
Plot hole.
Also,
In this movie,
aren't there lots... I mean...
there's a lot of physical changes that happen during childbirth, from what I
yes,
remember
and
from school.
and a lot of them are just that you can pick it up visually.
Yeah,
right?
you wouldn't need the fluid to be able to tell,
And-
like, oh,
And
baby.
and also, I don't know, blood work, which is like a standard thing that they do when you go to a hospital.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah, yeah.
But in this movie,
But in a world
we got
where
placental fluid.
you've got
yes, in a
the
vial.
constellations that appear and disappear every couple of years, maybe the science
true.
is just different in this world. Huh.
What was the condition in the other movie that Dan had a huge problem with?
Oh, it was an infraction of some sort.
Yes.
Not an
yeah,
infarction.
in this- It was in this
An
universe
infarction.
where they have infractions.
Hey, this is Dan in Post. I continued my research after we finished the episode. Kept grilling my local experts on babies falling out of women. And right away, I was given clarification that this placental fluid that I was referring to is amniotic fluid, and I'm using the wrong term. So it really is another infarction moment where a little bit of research on the writer's side might have saved me from looking like an idiot talking about the wrong fluid label. Also, when I presented the entire scene again, it was pointed out to me that, oh yeah, that pelvis would be exploded, and any good doctor would notice, like, hey, a baby definitely fell out of this region here. the region where the babies fall out. Guys, ew. Anyway, miracle of childbirth, Uncle Baby, gross. This movie blows. Back to the show.
Here's one thing that struck me as odd. When they drive past Tommy's house and he's looking out the window, and the friend, was her name Beth?
Mm-hmm.
Was telling Kara about this guy.
Yeah.
And she's saying all these things about Tommy, who lives across the street.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he lives right there. You should probably know him. And he's pretty fucking famous. Famous enough to be in the headlines on his wall. It says, Tommy Doyle survives Halloween massacre. But the friend is like, something really weird happened when he was a kid. Like, something?
Like she
like,
doesn't.
it's the biggest freaking thing that ever happened in that town.
She's about the same age, right? If she's a little younger, maybe
Yeah,
she
I
doesn't.
mean, she's in college.
But
I
like,
don't know
she's
how
not
old he
allowed
is,
to
but-
celebrate Halloween for a reason. You'd think in that whole town, everybody would be aware of the business.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like Footloose in that town. Like, you're not allowed to
Yeah.
celebrate Halloween. Why? Well, Tommy participated in that event that canceled Halloween
Yeah,
forever.
go ask Tommy. He'll tell you.
Yeah, so not something weird happened to him. Like, he was person 4 in the entire story.
Yeah.
So
But then again, she is part of the collection of people that are basically trying to resurrect Halloween.
the friend is. Right. So she should know even more. If she's that big of a fan of Michael Myers, she should know.
No. Is she a fan of Michael Myers? Or
She
is
seemed to be kind of a geek about it. Like, when they were, she's like, this is the Myers house. This is the room where it happened. It's like she was
yes.
like the one pushing for that radio DJ to come to the town. So, who was supposed to be Howard Stern, by the way.
Was it Howard Stern? I got more of like a Man Cow vibe. Do you guys remember Man Cow?
Yeah, I remember Mancow, but
Just
I
like
believe they actually
shittier
approached.
Howard Stern.
Yeah, they approached Stern. And he turned it down.
Yeah,
Good.
as any self-respecting.
Well, he's not very self-respecting back then. What was my other thing? The Strode family. Oh, first of all, no title sequence threw me off.
Yeah, very weird.
I was like, it didn't feel like a Halloween movie because they never did anything. There was no build-up. It just went
Mhm.
right into her being wheeled into the room, having a baby.
Yeah.
You need some kind of montage. You need something with the pumpkin. You need something with that blinking music with the jack-o'-lantern. You need
Mhm.
something.
Yeah.
They didn't have that, so against them, I have to say. Tommy Doyle should have been. They kind of hinted towards it a few times. He should have become the Loomis of this movie.
Yeah.
They showed his obsessive nature. They showed his, compulsion. They showed everything, but they never kind of made that Tommy Jason transition with him to commit to it. Like,
Yeah.
I guess because Loomis was there, so they didn't want to fully do that. But I think that would have made it more interesting. Dan, did you pick up on the fact that the dad, Mr. Strode, might be the father of Danny?
I'm going to say no, but I will acknowledge that there's a really weird, like, who is whom at the table at the beginning of the movie when you've got the introduction of the Biff character and his wife and Danny and the mom. Like, the casting ages are so old that, like, at first I was like, oh, so this is Biff and his mom and his wife who has a kid. And then it's like, oh no, wait, that's his daughter and he's like a bastard son. I didn't think that in the text of the movie there was any like hint that it may be some kind of incestuous father-daughter thing.
I felt
I
there
didn't get
was,
that
'cause there was
from the text. I was just confused
there's
at
a
first
shot,
because the
there's a
ages
look
are
that
funny.
she shoots him. What's that?
The ages are funny enough that I'm like, the mom seems way older and the dad seems a little bit younger, almost to the age of his daughter in the movie, who is cast older like they always do in these movies. So that
Yeah,
threw
but
me off at first.
I'm going by actual behavior.
Oh golly.
Acting. And
Okay.
she shoots her dad a look that made me think that there's history there more than just him being an asshole. And then his automatically going after her for basically running from, like, I think that that child is his. He wanted her to get eliminated, and she kept them, and there's animosity there because that's an evidence of the occasion. That's what I got from that.
Okay.
And then he has a weird picture of her in his office where she's all dolled up, and it's like a framed picture of her where it's not out on a shelf or a mantle. It's like in a drawer.
Well, he was mad at her, so he put it away.
Yeah.
It seemed very strange to me.
Okay, I did not get that vibe at all.
Oh, okay.
In fact, I was also confused at the very start of the table conversation, and as to who was who.
Well, the
Because
mom says that
I also thought the mother was the grandmother. What's her name's Kara? I thought she was Kara's grandmother,
Okay.
but she's not. She's her
She's
mother.
her mother.
And then when the mother and father were established, and then I was like, oh, okay, so Danny's her kid, then that means that that's her sibling, and that's the little Danny's uncle.
Well, the mom says uncle, yeah.
But I even got that before she said uncle, so like I wasn't assuming anything that was anything like that was like you were saying, anything wrong or weird. I was mapping out who was in what generation, basically.
Right.
Like, and it was confusing. But I got it because, I mean,
They hammer it
it's
home eventually.
It's well written.
yeah.
That's why you got it. No, I was going by the behavior, almost like it was like acting choices. They made the actors made choices in that scene to behave in a certain way.
I had to watch it again.
You know how we talked about sometimes when a character like Richard Gere in Primal Rage, where he's making character choices to agree or react, and he's not really using written words, but he's making choices. I felt she made choices visually. Maybe she did it just for her own personal, character development. I don't know, but she was definitely doing more than was on the page. I guess I'm gonna say.
Also, why didn't she just get a tissue before she left the house?
Probably just wanted to get out of there. I don't know. It's probably not the first time he hit her.
I know, but like, she knows her nose is bleeding.
Yeah.
She like left the house.
See.
Well, she wanted to get that shot.
Just clean that up real quick.
That is it Deborah Strode? Is that the mom?
The mom, yeah. The mom from Better Off Dead.
She's only 48 at the time they made this movie, and she looks.
So she could play high school age.
She looks 65. Like they've got her dressed up to where, because she's actually younger than the guy that plays the Biff dad, but they've got her in makeup and stuff to make her look ancient for some reason. It's a weird. This movie sucks a lot.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. Maybe it's just that she looked too young, that it would be confusing. So they made her look way old. So it was confusing in a different way. I'm very...
Or maybe she's just...
Yeah, because how old is Kara's brother? He's in college, right?
He's in high school.
Oh, Butthead?
He's in high school.
Yeah.
Yeah, Butthead.
Oh my God. That scene. Dudes, go back and watch. This is if you're going to go back and watch any of this movie, it's when he does his Butthead voice to the murder drawing, and he goes,
yeah.
I think it's cool. But then if you watch, the camera doesn't move, and he like forgets that he's in character, and so he goes back to like regular guy. He like loses his character and stays on the screen for another like 5 seconds or so. It's hilarious. It looks like he thought they were going to cut, and then they don't.
Well, based on what I've
so good.
learned about this director, I have a feeling he probably gave him that note, and it's not in the script. He
Oh
probably
my
said,
gosh.
hey, do a Butthead impression.
Hey, it's the 90s. We've already got shock jocks. Now we need Butthead.
Yeah.
Oh my God. This movie.
So one other fun fact that's going to make Dan upset.
Oh no.
Christopher Lee was supposed to play Wynn.
Oh,
as
that
the
would have been
doctor.
awesome.
Man in Black would have been sweet. You don't know. You don't know Christopher Lee.
He's in Star Wars, isn't he? He's in real stuff that people know.
Yeah, he was in the Star Wars prequels. He played Count Dooku, but he for years he played Dracula in like
Dooku?
yeah, Count Dooku.
Count Chocula?
Count Chocula.
Count Chocula. But how many movies?
But
he's been 286
Didn't
credits.
he-
That's amazing.
Didn't he have a lightsaber fight with Yoda?
Yes,
No, that was the Emperor.
Oh, didn't he? I
Oh, wait,
don't
no.
know.
Dooku did have a fight with Yoda as well.
He did. I know.
But
who he is.
Anakin cuts his head off. Spoiler alert.
Man.
Did you see the meme going around recently where it was like it was the actor who played Anakin and the actor who played the little boy that he slaughtered when he slaughtered all the little children, and they were like hanging out and being buddy and stuff because it was like a real life picture of like what they're like today.
Okay.
And they were just like hanging out with each other like, hey, we were in the same movie.
Right.
And I forget what the meme said, but it was pretty much like about like forgiveness, but like kind of being sarcastic. It was really funny.
Was it? It's when he comes in, he's like, just, help us, please. And he's like,
Yeah, exactly. You're right. That kid and
that kid.
My favorite
That's
Christopher Lee story that I'm going to tell you without having ever verified. He's in a movie called Eugenie or something like that, directed by Jess Franco, which if you know who Jess Franco is, you know what that movie's like. But basically there are shots in the movie where he is like in the foreground in an apartment, and behind him people are like making out and banging and stuff. And for years he maintained that he had no idea he was doing an erotic movie. And it's like, you never turned around? Like you didn't hear anything going on 3 feet behind you? It's wonderful. Eugenie, not great. Yeah, he had no idea. No idea what that sound was. Very funny. Good old Christopher Lee.
All right, so can I say what I think would have kind of fixed this movie for me?
Sure.
Are we at that point?
I mean, if you can fix this movie, I would be very pleased with you.
Okay. So Halloween 6 came out in 1995.
Mm-hmm.
And Peter O'Hurley, is it Hurley? O'Hurley? Who's the guy who plays the old man in RoboCop?
Dan O'Hurley?
O'Hurley was like 78 years old when that movie came out.
Mm-hmm.
Halloween 6. Wouldn't it have been awesome if there was no Wynn in this movie? And instead it was Cochran from Halloween 3. And they connect Silver Shamrock Factory instead of the Thorn underground cult.
Yeah.
So to fix this movie, you would unmake it and then make something similar but way better, is what you're saying. So there's no actual saving this movie.
You'd have to.
No,
yeah.
I wouldn't be able to save this movie, but if I was writing this movie, I would have totally made the connection and actually had Cochran, since he was in his 80s, early 80s, late 70s, playing
it was doable.
the Wynn character.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of it being an old doctor friend of Loomis, you connect all of it with, and you kind of have the not Celtic, but like the Druids connection with the Stonehenge from part 3. They could have done it instead of this half-cocked, sacrificial.
So are we doing Stonehenge?
Huh?
So are we doing Stonehenge?
I don't know. It's a little small.
No, we're not fucking doing Stonehenge.
Oh,
Yes.
man. I mean, here's the deal. I'm always looking
What that-
for off-ramps to get Michael Myers to cross over to the Halloween 3 universe just for funsies, because I know that's like something they
Mhm.
never intended, but we love Halloween 3 here, so. And I love Dan O'Hurley a lot. If you remember our failsafe episode, if you remember our failsafe episode, I love Dan O'Hurley, and of course he's in RoboCop as well. So anything to get him into more movies I'm watching is great. It's just a shame that to save this movie, you'd have to destroy this movie. Like there has to be a way to redeem all this nonsense and make a Halloween 7 that is like watchable. But I don't know how.
Well, I know of a guy on YouTube that actually did a Sandman type edit where he took everything that was salvageable from the theatrical everything salvageable in the producer's cut and created his own version of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen it, so I don't know if it saves it. You can. I know a lot of people hate the whole idea of a cult and all that stuff, but it's not a bad idea. I think the execution of it was where it went wrong.
Seems like
I think
nowadays a lot of people would really like the idea of a cult
Well,
being responsible for all the ills in the world and such.
Well, no, but yeah, it wouldn't have been any different than what we talked about with The Fog, where you have this ghost story lineage type thing where these ancestors of these families were the reason why these pirates were killed or died, and then they were cursed. So if you do the same thing with the town or something that maybe relates more to the town and not so much an ancient Celtic, there's a way to do it, I think. And the mystical...
Yeah, what you're saying is like a modern day Fog with the town of Haddonfield.
Right, where Myers is connected in a way, maybe not a pawn for these robe-wearing morons, but more like because that group...
They were
that
not
group was
top
not-
tier, top
No, they
shelf
were
bad
not. It
guys.
was like, no.
None of them looked
Uh,
like they'd ever practiced wearing those robes. Like everybody
No.
looked awkward, like they were trying them on for the first time.
I just think if they took notes from like a movie like Terminator, where the premise is the execution of a child who in the future is going to, eliminate the purpose of the machines. So if Myers is like the Terminator and they figure out a way to connect Myers to that lineage battle in a way and still connect it somehow to black magic or the occult, it can be done, but I just don't think that this director was the right director. And I think the writer, based on what I've read about him, was a huge Halloween fan, and they shot maybe 50% of his original script. So
A couple of things that I'm having trouble
curious.
with. The idea, I mean, a lot of it comes back to like how far we've come, right? From an escaped mental patient murderer who stole a mask from a hardware store to now like somehow it's 20 years later, he's still got the same mask, and now he's like a druidic super monster. Like how far we have fallen from a simple concept with a great twist that maybe he was more than meets the eye, right?
Right.
And now just the more they set up this like, oh, now he's got a tattoo we haven't explained. Now he's got a guy with cowboy boots. Now we don't know now that girl is going to be psychic, but maybe she's not. But now she's killed a guy. But now we don't care that she killed a lady because the bathtub was too hot. Like the writing process for 4 through 6 is like it's like a masterclass on how to just completely derail a
things.
property.
Well, I think it's the chicken or the egg theory here. Like, you're saying that it was simple, and then you're right, and it worked. And here's the people who are saying, okay, we are trying to explain why this thing continues to do what it's doing. So then they try to do this whole backstory of why it's doing this. But then the true fans are sitting there going, I don't care. It's awesome not knowing.
It's better if you don't tell me. Don't tell me.
Right.
You're messing
It's
it
better
up.
not. It's better not to meet your heroes.
But it's true. The more, even Carpenter was part of this. I mean, the whole idea of the sister, now you're doing patterns.
Yeah.
So, okay, if he kills his sister when he's 8, and then he comes out of hibernation to kill his other sister, then now you've caused a pattern. So now the writers into the future, you got to think like superhero movies or whatever. They want to go to the source material, but they want to use their own story. So every writer's going, okay, we got to explain why he continues to go after this bloodline. And if Carpenter never did that, then you wouldn't have to worry about it. Then it becomes an entity, pure evil, driven by, we don't know.
I mean, yeah, he could just.
Which is better?
Yeah, I
Because
don't
Jason
know.
is a revenge character.
Yeah.
Freddy is supernatural. What is Myers?
Sexy.
He's human. He's sexy. He's human that becomes supernatural. Or was he always supernatural?
Did you notice
Or
the
was it
part
never
here where the girl was on the radio that she was talking about how hot he was or whatever?
Yeah.
I forgot that was in this movie, but yeah, thinking back to
As
those
soon as I
people
heard
I've
it, I
talked to
thought
in
of-
real life about their sexy Michael Myers fascination. I guess it's always been that way to where they even featured it in the damn movie. Ooh.
Yes, all the people that you asked to email you to explain it
Oh my gosh. So
way
weird.
back when.
Big fan.
Hmm. I wish
Remedialfilmpod@gmail.com.
Aaron would explain that to us, his obsession with Michael Myers.
I don't know that he's into Mike Myers, but if he is, I'm sure he'll email me.
So that's that. It doesn't fix it for me, but
It's an interesting
Yeah.
concept, like Halloween 5 and 6 that intentionally tried to circle back and make Halloween 3 canon would be badass, but they didn't do that.
yeah.
And I don't know. Hey,
Well,
but
they tried to put 3 in this movie. I read in an interview the mom was going to be watching Halloween 3 on the TV.
that would be great.
So-
And you
so
don't
at
even have
least
to
it was
make it canon. You can just do it like they did in
Right.
Halloween 3 where they were watching Halloween 1 on TV. That would
Yeah.
make sense in the franchise, but no.
No.
Plus, you might get some Tom Atkins in this movie, which is always good.
I wonder how big the TV disconnect was.
I think it'd be amazing if you had one of the old ladies like totally like really enjoying the sight of Tom Atkins, you know, because he's
Yeah.
always getting the ladies. Get one of those old ladies all aflutter because he's
It's that mustache.
be amazing. Yikes! This movie. George, do you see why we didn't make you watch 2 cuts of the same movie?
Yeah.
And then for the next movie, they literally just throw it all in the trash and go back to Halloween 2 again. So yeah, you're welcome. Sometimes we do things that are nice for George. This was one of those times.
Yeah, it is amazing, like you said, Dan, how far this franchise
fallen.
strayed.
And how quickly.
Yeah.
Like, basically, Halloween 4 is just Halloween 2. If you
Yeah.
think about it, because Halloween 2 actually wasn't supposed to exist. So Halloween 4 is the sequel. And between 4 and 5, they went from unexplained killer
Yeah.
to cult. Like it's,
Yeah.
it's
Way
disgusting.
too much explained
Yeah,
killer.
Way too much.
Oh.
They mansplained it.
Which is funny because you could explain Jason all day long and it'd be great. But it's just because the basis of Michael Myers is so nebulous and they chose the worst possible way to explain it.
Well,
Yeah.
how would you explain his behavior?
Well, you know, maybe we should wait and talk about that later in October.
Okay.
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 Okay. But yeah, they
Put a
definitely
pin in it because it dies tonight.
so good. Let me get my my iron. We'll talk about it. George,
Woof.
Halloween
Yeah.
6. You want to watch it again?
No.
Okay. Don't. It's not good. But I'm glad you watched it because you can see like this franchise really self-corrected to H2O, which was, if I remember correct, one you actually liked.
Yeah, and it kind of makes the Busta Rhymes stuff not so bad after watching this.
Yeah. Trick or treat, motherfucker.
Oh, yeah. Because when you say H2O, I'm like,
H2O was the
I'm like-
Jamie Lee Curtis
I'm kind of like, remind me of what it is.
return.
Yeah, it's the one with LL Cool J, and it
LL
is not
Cool
bad.
J.
It is
Yeah.
good. Although that one guy's
Yeah.
haircut is bad, but that's okay.
Yes, Josh Hartnett.
That's all right. He saved
Went
us
on
in
to do some
Mogadishu,
things.
so it's fine.
Yes.
So George, the thing about the Halloween franchise, they
Mhm.
did 7 and 8, H2O and Resurrection, and then something about shocking Michael Myers in the junk with speaker cable just didn't sit well with audiences, and they took a step back and they decided maybe it was time to stop making sequels that are just the same thing every time. Maybe it's time to give a visionary director the opportunity to just straight up remake Halloween for a modern audience.
Okay.
So what do you think? Should we go back two basics. Let's remake Halloween with a visionary director who will put his own spin on the franchise.
I'm for it.
If that's where we're going, I'm down.
Now, are you aware of what visionary director I'm referring to?
It's probably that one that you said it was that you guys aren't a fan of.
Hey, I never said I wasn't a fan of...
I never said I wasn't a fan of him.
No. We are, of course, referring to the 2007 Halloween, directed by one Robert F. Zombie.
Yeah, Rob Zombie. Yeah, that's who I was thinking of.
So yeah, that's where we
I
go
thought
next.
you said, okay, yeah, this is the one where like he did the backstory and Michael Myers was like abused and stuff, and you were like, I don't want to know that. Didn't you mention that before?
I don't know.
Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. But even an abused child certainly sounds more reasonable than a rune cult explained by the future Ant-Man in explicit detail.
Yeah, it's true.
So no, Rob Zombie will not be putting Michael Myers in a rock circle. I can promise you that.
Oh, thank goodness.
A rock circle. That was so bad.
Oh my god.
It worked.
Even the chain net made more sense than that.
You know, it's funny when Loomis comes walking over to Myers, he started kicking the stones out of the way. And I'm sitting there going, he's going to come back. He can get out of that circle now. I'm like,
yeah,
no, it's not even him.
like it's a magnetic field.
Yeah. I didn't know what the frig they were doing in that circle. I know, like in like the occult, that they can't get in or out of the circle that they make. But whatever. It wasn't even Myers, so it didn't matter.
Yeah, Myers got out of
He
the
was
circle.
already out.
That's
He was like,
fine.
Peace.
No,
He was
question for you.
Maybe
George.
he was just standing there in the circle confused.
George, are you going to
Like-
watch Halloween 2007 on Prime? Is that your preferred service?
I mean,
I actually have that on DVD.
I usually borrow a DVD from Travis unless he doesn't have it.
Well, because we need to
No.
decide which cut you're watching.
I have I have the unrated, and I think I have the rated. I have both.
Okay. Well, we need to...
I had this movie, but it was turned out to be one of those convention copies.
Oh, yeah, the producer's cut. Just
Terrible.
utter garbage.
Yeah.
But it is
Yeah.
amazing to think that that's how we knew the producer's cut in the 90s, and now it's like in
Mhm.
4K coming soon. Like, that's wild.
Yeah.
Good
It-
job
it
to
got the,
Dimension for not throwing all that footage away.
We got the Snyder cut of Halloween 6.
So I guess the question, Travis, then, do you want to watch the unrated cut, or do you want to watch the rated R theatrical cut?
I'm trying to remember what's the time difference between the two, and if it's really necessary to watch the unrated. I'm sure if it's Rob Zombie, it's just probably just more gratuity.
It is gratuitous. It is
Yeah.
11 minutes longer,
Okay.
so not a huge difference.
It's not that much.
But it looks like most of it is, according to this quick summation from moviecensorship.com, it is mostly like plot. It's not just a bunch of gore. So it's not 11 minutes of stabbing. It might actually be worth watching.
So let's watch the unrated.
Let's watch the unrated. So we're
Okay.
watching the unrated 2007 version of Halloween, directed by Robert Zombie.
Yes.
It's a sick last name.
Yeah. Fitting last name. Definitely.
Thank you, listeners, George.
Thank them.
Thanks, listeners. We
Did
really
you prepare that?
we really appreciate you. Especially if you're watching these movies, especially when they're this bad. It's
There's a few people that actually believe this is a good movie.
when you're still with us through times like these, it means you're a true friend.
Our movie recession.
Yes. And so, from the bottom of my heart, thank you.
Aw.
No, that felt good.
Thank you for joining us on the Remedial Film Class Podcast. As always, you can find us at facebook.com/remedialfilmpod. You can find us at Twitter and Instagram at remedialfilmpod. We'll be back next week with the unrated director's cut. of Rob Zombie's 2007 Halloween. Sorry in advance.